So on the left-hand column is your participation/work period. So those are the days that you're working. I'm gonna jump down to June 12th, just because that's what's relevant right now, or that's the date that a lot of you are starting. So your work period begins Monday, June 12th, and you're being paid bi-weekly. So your work period goes for 2 weeks. So June 12th through June 23rd. So a Monday through the following Friday. So 2 weeks. So you're going to be logging, and we're going to show you where you're going to be logging what you're doing, but your work period is for 2 weeks. Then where it says invoice due date, June 22nd. So it's on the whole right-hand side, but for this, we're just for the sake of example, we're looking at June 12th through June 23rd you worked. Your due date for your invoice is June 22nd. Question, hey Cheryl, how is my invoice due on June 22nd, but I haven't worked that day yet? I haven't worked June 23rd yet, but I have to submit this on June 22nd. Excellent question. So you'll notice that the invoice due dates are all on Thursdays. So you are going to be projecting your hours for the next day. All of you will be working with your mentors to have like set hours or an idea of like your set hours. So you'll get a trend, or you'll have like a routine. So after like you've worked for the 2 weeks from June 12th through June 22nd, you're going to have an idea of how many hours you're going to work on that next day, June 23rd. So we're asking you to project those hours. So going back to your offer letter that we sent, if you're working 40 hours a week, when you submit for this pay period, because it's 2 weeks in this pay period, you would be submitting for no more than 80 hours because you worked 2 weeks. Is that clear? Also note, unfortunately, everybody is independent contractors, not employees, which means that as an independent contractor, you don't get benefits. So there's no health benefits, there's like no dental coverage, and there's also no vacation pay. I know, sucks. But you're billing for the exact hours that you worked for. So for instance, most of your projects or labs that you're working with are going to observe like Juneteenth coming up, right? I'm not working on Juneteenth. That's my holiday. Like I'm taking it as a holiday, right? However, I'm an employee. I work for growth sector, right? You all are contractors. So unless you are actually, and you work with your mentor and your mentor says, hey, you're going to be logging hours on Juneteenth and like you can work your 8 hours, then you can bill for it. But we shouldn't see on your invoice holiday pay, because then Myra's going to tap and say, hey, Genesis, go back and like, please fix this, because if you didn't work these hours, then we can't pay you for them, unfortunately. All right, is that clear? So your pay period is June 12th through June 23rd, or any 2-week period that's on the left-hand column. And on the right-hand column is the date that you need to hit submit on your invoice. And we're going to show you next how you're going to be submitting your invoice. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. So this is super basic. It's an Excel spreadsheet, editable, like super, super easy to fill out, but we just want to make sure that you are paying attention to all the fields and putting everything where it's supposed to go. So your invoice is going to be submitted every 2 weeks during your entire internship in order to get paid. We cannot pay you without receiving your invoice, which is due on the Thursday of that pay period. So again, going back to like June 22nd. So you'll see Myra's highlighted everything like really beautifully and put markers on everything you need to fill out. So you're going to be working off of the same Excel spreadsheet document every pay period. You're going to receive the template from us after today's session. So you're going to update with intern name. That's you, Elijah Smith. You're going to put your name in. Your internship site, so where you specifically are working this summer, your phone number, your email address, like those lines are not going to change. Services for, that's going to change every pay period, so you need to update it. So for this first pay period that a lot of you are going to be participating in will be June 12th through June 23rd. So you need to make sure that you're updating that.
And just remember, refer to this. If you get confused as to what date, see June 12th right here to June 23rd. That's literally what's on right here, June 12th to June 23rd, because that's what you're billing for.
And then go back, Myra, one more time too. So if you're not starting your internship until June 26th, that's fine. You wouldn't bill for June 12th through June 23rd because you didn't work. But let's say that you started on like June 20th. That was like your first day that was on your offer letter. That's what your site and your mentor, like you guys agreed to. Totally fine. The pay period is still June 12th through June 23rd, but you would only bill for the dates that you worked, which might be June 20th, June 21st, June 22nd, and June 23rd. So only those days in that pay period. So you wouldn't start billing from June 12th because you didn't work. Again, we don't want this to sound redundant, but these are things we see over and over and over again from students. Okay, so this next area is where like the real work is where you're going to be like logging what you actually did on those days in the pay period. So for instance, you're going to be writing in June 13th, let's say it was like your first day of work. In the description of services, you don't need to be super detailed. We don't want just one word, but just give us a brief description of what you did for a period of time. So let's say that you spent 4 hours of your first day going through your intern orientation at Caltrans, not this intern orientation because nobody's being paid for this orientation. That's another question I always get, right? This is just informative. So let's say your first day at Caltrans, you did your intern orientation and you met with your mentor and that took 4 hours. That's what you are going to be like logging for, like, let's say 4 hours. Then after that, you moved on and your mentor assigned you to read through your department manual and take notes. That took you 2 hours. And then after that, you spent 2 hours setting up your equipment. So just very brief descriptions. I hope this gives you a good example. Maybe that was 2 hours and that filled up your 8 hours of the workday. Is that clear? You shouldn't be, so like if you are, some of you are doing research that's maybe 20 hours a week. So whatever that breakdown is, if it's you're working 4 hours a day or 5 hours a day, then same deal, but you would be breaking down your hours for those 4 hours that you worked for that day, right? So that's June 13th. Then June 14th, you're gonna go on, same deal, just explain to us a very brief description of what your hour breakdown looked like for that day. So you're going to go on to continue this for your entire pay period. And again, we're just using the example of June 12th through June 23rd. So each day that you worked through those dates, that's what we should be seeing in these fields. The spreadsheet will automatically tabulate your total hours worked. So you'll see on, you're putting in your hours on the right-hand side. Every time you add in hours, it will be tabulating your total hours worked at the bottom of the sheet. Again, if you are working 40 hours a week over 2 weeks, that means 80 hours that you would be, or you'd be billing for. Hopefully that makes sense and isn't confusing, right? All right, so then moving on. So your hourly rate, you need to fill this part in. So hourly rate, you're pulling that directly from your offer letter. So if you're making $17.50 an hour, you're going to multiply that by the total hours worked for this pay period. So for example, at the bottom of your hours worked so far, we're at 10 hours. So $17.50 times 10 hours is $175. And that's essentially what you'd be billing for. All right, I'm going to pause there because I see a couple of questions already. So if you want to unmute yourself, Jay.
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
So I had a question regarding the hourly thing because personally in my case, my offer letter didn't show an hourly, it just showed like a weekly amount. So I'm not sure how that would translate to like writing down the invoice.
Yep. Jay, you have a different situation, so stay on after this and we will work with you directly.
Okay, thank you.
Bilal?
I also have a question. So I was received the hourly rate from growth sector, and then my employer also gave me a rate for which I was hired on. Is that separate?
It should be the same hourly rate. If it was different, then we need to talk.
All right, we need to talk.
Okay, no problem. We'll follow up afterwards. But thank you guys for those questions. And Myra and I will stay on after this, in case there are any like more individualized questions, specifically for your situation. But any questions specifically about the invoice so far, about submitting, or anything we've covered?
I have a question. I don't know if you could hear me.
Yeah, go ahead, Livna. We're losing you.
It says that there's an invoice of May 15th to the 20th. Fill in the invoice for that? Oh, can you hear me?
You're in and out.
Hello?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
try again. Do you want to just put your question in the chat? But I think I heard, Myra, can you go back to the pay schedule? I think you were getting to the point that there is an invoice for like May 15th through May 26th. If you didn't work, we had a few rare cases where interns were starting super early, so they worked that pay period. If you did not work that pay period, in regards to your offer letter saying that that's when you started, you would not submit an invoice for anything before you actually start. We've had in the past, for instance, an intern who was like, okay, my internship offer letter says I begin on June 26th, but I just wanted to do extra work and start doing research. So I started working from May 15th. So I'm going to submit an invoice. No, your offer letter didn't say for you to start working. So you can do all the research you'd like, but we cannot officially start paying you. So you wouldn't submit an invoice to growth sector until the pay period on your offer letter. Okay, hopefully that answered your question, Livna. Yes, you do need to sign your offer letter. You received that from me and you send it back to me as per the instructions in the email. Anbird?
Hi, sorry. I have a question on my invoice. I mean, on my paper, it says specifically I start on the 25th, which is a Sunday. And it's sort of in between both like invoice like due dates. Would I turn it in like on the invoice date that's after it, not before?
Where are you placed?
In terms of, between like
Your
maybe
internship
June
site.
25th.
Where's your internship site?
June 25th.
Where are you interning?
Oh, at Lawrence
Livermore.
Livermore, yeah.
Yeah, they did it a little weird. You're likely not going to start working until Monday.
Okay, yeah.
So they're gonna have you work on- yeah, so just connect with your mentor to confirm like what day like they want you to report. And it's likely gonna be the Monday, which would mean like you'd fall into the correct billing cycle.
Okay.
Yeah, but if it gets confusing afterwards, just like shoot me an email and let me know.
All right. Thank you.
Patricia?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the invoice submission. It has to be is it just once or it should be like each 2 weeks?
Yeah, so Myra, let's go back to the pay schedule. So you're submitting every 2 weeks during your entire internship. You see on the left-hand side is your participation work period. And then the right-hand side is the deadline, the due date for that work period. So if you are interning from June 12th through like, I forget what the 10 weeks is, maybe like August 18th, you're going to be submitting for each of these dates. You're going to have to submit an invoice on June 22nd, July 6th, July 20th, August 3rd, and August 17th. So you're submitting an invoice every 2 weeks for the pay period that we're alluding to on the left-hand side.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Jacoby?
So I have a question because I saw that some people duration is 10 weeks. Mine say 8 weeks, but the dates are from June 12th to August 18th. That's actually 10 weeks. So I don't know if that was a typo on my
Where are you located? Or where are you interning?
oh, my intern is Cal State.
Cal State LA?
Yeah.
That's 8 weeks. So that probably needs to be edited.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
Can
No
you,
problem.
Jacoby, can you just shoot me an email after this so I don't forget, so we can get that corrected for you?
Okay.
Thank you. Samar, we'll take one more question, then we're gonna move on, just because I want to be sensitive to everybody's time. And if there are individual questions about your individual situation, that's fine. We'll just hold on to it until afterwards.
Are we, when we're calculating the pay, we're doing the total, like what the internship is paying us and what you guys are paying us, right? Or are we just,
So you are taking the total number of hours that you worked and
Mhm.
multiplying that by your hourly rate that's on your growth sector internship offer letter.
okay,
Where are you interning? Because you might have a different situation.
daily computers?
Yep, so that's a little bit different. So you are specifically going to invoice for the part that growth sector is paying you.
Okay, okay,
That makes sense, because daily is paying you one portion and then growth sector is paying you a separate portion. So you're only going to invoice for the amount that growth sector is actually paying you, which was a different hourly rate.
okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
All right, good questions, everybody. So stick around. We're going to keep moving forward, but if there are individual questions after this for your individual situation, just stick around and we will make sure to get them answered for you. So the last part is that I want to note is where it says contractor signature. So you need to sign your invoice. You need to date your invoice, which will likely be that last day or the due date that you're submitting on. And then the big thing I want to make sure everybody pays attention to is your supervisor needs to sign or initial before your invoice is valid. So my advice to everybody is do not wait until the June 22nd. That's the day that we're saying it's due. Don't wait until June 22nd to then fill everything out. I would encourage you maybe like make it a routine at the end of each day. You go into your invoice and log like, here's what I did today. Here's what I did the next day. Just because you're going to forget over 2 weeks, like what you did each day. The other thing to note is, look, so you have the deadlines here of what day you need to submit your invoice by. You know that it's going to be due on June 22nd. So I would reach out to your mentor in advance and say, hey, I'm going to get this invoice to you on like June 21st or June 22nd. Can you take a look at it and sign off? Because I need to submit this by 12 p.m. on June 22nd. Talk to your mentor. Hey, if you're out sick or you're away on vacation and you're unable to sign off on my invoice, who should I reach out to in the department that can sign off for it in your place? Is there anybody else who can look at it? So what happens every summer is that students will come on like June 22nd when it's due, or whatever date that it says on your pay. I'm just using June 22nd as the example for this. Will come to us and say, hey, my mentor is on vacation for the next week, so they couldn't sign off on it. You knew that it was going to be on June 22nd. You should have communicated to your mentor, right? So have these conversations early enough and find out who can be like a placeholder or sign off for you in the meantime, right? So don't be last minute about this. Like you shouldn't be reaching out to your mentor knowing that your invoice is due at 12 p.m. on June 22nd. You shouldn't be reaching out to your mentor on June 22nd at 11:50 and saying, hey, can you sign this? Myra, anything I'm forgetting?
No, I would just, like I said, you really have to really hold yourself accountable during this process. Like I said, check those emails frequently. What I would do if I were you is go, if you use a planner, if you use a digital calendar, whatever you use, I would highly suggest putting in the dates of when your invoice is due as a reminder. I can't tell you how many times we've had students completely forget to turn in an invoice, and we're then having to follow up by email, by call, by whatever means to try to remind you, hey, you need to submit this by 12 p.m. noon. Again, unless you don't want to get paid, that's a whole other story. But again, I don't think any of us want to work for free, right? So you need to make sure it is your responsibility to turn in your invoice completely filled out with everything ready to roll on the day that it's due by 12 p.m. noon.
Pacific
So
Standard Time.
Pacific Standard Time. So please make sure you submit that and completely filled out. Again, if we see, I can't tell you how many times the services for tab right here, students always get it wrong because they're not paying attention. Make sure these couple lines right here, the 1, 2, 3, 4, these top 4 are always going to stay the same, right? The one that is going to change is the services for, because that's going to be the week that you are invoicing for. So always refer to your pay schedule and make sure that when you submit it, it has the right due dates. Again, we can't change these things for you. You have to be the one to make the edits on your Excel sheet. And then again, making sure it's the small little details, making sure to change the date every time that you are submitting for the correct date. Just make sure that you, again, put reminders on your calendar, whatever you need to do, but make sure that you stay on top of it because it is your responsibility to complete this. And again, failure to submit your invoice in a timely manner may result in a delay in payment. So just want to make sure we stress that.
Thanks, Mara. And to be clear again, your hourly rate is not going to change. So your hourly rate is your hourly rate on your offer letter, and you are simply multiplying that by the total number of hours worked for this pay period. So whatever it tabulates you to on where it says 10 right now, that's obviously incorrect, but like where it says 10, that's what you're going to be multiplying your $17.50 or your hourly rate by. And then you need to put in what this total is. Because this total where it says 175 or whatever it totals out to be, that's what you're going to be paid for that pay period. So you want to make sure you're double checking.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Again, we don't mean to harp on this, but we're doing this for a lot of interns and we see these mistakes over and over and over again. And don't depend on me. Like Myra said, save the invoice due dates so that you know when it's coming. I will typically send you a reminder a couple days before saying, hey, interns, like, don't forget, you're going to be, your due date is June 22nd for your invoice. So make sure you're working on it and ready to submit. It doesn't mean you can't turn it in early. We're saying your invoice is due at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on that invoice due date, but it doesn't mean you can't get it in at 9 a.m. or like the day before. If like you worked with your mentor to get it done, that's totally fine. I would say it's even better. Like, don't wait until the last minute to submit it. That's just like the cutoff. So all invoices must be submitted to the Dropbox listed below. We are going to be emailing you this link, but if you want to save this would be a good one to save. So you're going, after today's session, you are going to get lots of documents from us, but the big ones to note is you're going to get the template for your invoice and you're going to get the link for your invoice submission. And this link is not going to change for the entire summer. So every time you update your invoice, you are going to go to this invoice link and submit your invoice there. So you're not emailing it to Cheryl, you're not emailing it to Myra. Thanks, Dr. Boko. Yep, I see you're putting 12 p.m. Pacific. Yep, that is correct. 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.